I'm Ben, a sound designer and a producer at Output, and today I'm going to show you our new trance line, Transcend. This line features a lot of basses, interesting textural effects, leads, drum stems, and so on. Now this line covers a variety of genres, including but not limited to progressive trance, Goa trance, and psytrance. Some of the artists we were inspired by were Above and Beyond, Armin van Buuren, Infected Mushroom, Asterix, and many more. I'm gonna go ahead and show you a track I made using just kits from this line, and I'm gonna show you how some of those sounds were made. All right, so let's take a listen to the launch video music, and then I can break down the track. All right, I think that's good enough for now. So cracking right into the line, we have a variety of component kits. So we have drum kits, we have kits that are purely chord progressions, we have kits that are purely bass lines, and we can go ahead and check out the first kit type being drums. It's called Cobalt Comets, and it has a variety of different kick drums and snares and claps, that sort of thing. Little transitional component. And then finally, hi-hats. Currently, there are 2 drum stem kits in this line right now, and there'll be more to come in the future. Moving right on, we will hit this bass line that I actually put in the end of the track that I like. We can go ahead and listen to that in context. We designed this sound mostly within the arcade engine itself, just using a very simple source layer and tweaking it from there. Okay, and so that bass is actually one of our instruments. You can check out. So what I've loaded up here is a demo version where I've muted out everything but the most basic components, starting with this second layer, which is just a dirty saw. Sounds like that. And the next step I'm gonna do with it is put a filter on it and then have a filter envelope that will cut out the high end for a bit and then bring it back in kind of a percussive way. And if we were to actually adjust this filter, we could get a more wubby thing. But we do want this, again, percussive envelope. The next layer brings just additional harmonics into the equation, which is pretty cool, right? And we're gonna do that same thing we did with the previous one, just add another filter and filter envelope to control said filter. And then we have a sub component that's really just about the low end. Same deal, we're gonna have that same type of filter, really simple envelope. Again, that's just for those super low frequencies to be really clean. Next here, we have the arpeggiator, which is really great in arcade instruments because you can do a variety of different rhythms. You can see here I have these dotted eighth notes and then an eighth note and 2 16th notes. Each layer has its own independent arpeggiator, but I have tied them together, so they're all gonna work as one. Great, so really the sound is there, sort of an honorable mention for the little bit of reverb that definitely gives this thing depth here. I'll turn this delay down too while we're at it. So somewhat subtle, but nice, gives it depth. And then a little delay. I think a nice thing to have in there, a clipper. If you want like that little bit of extra grit, and then a chorus. So if you are looking for this bass, you can find it in the Transcend line and then in the instruments section. So it is right there. So this next instrument is not in the track currently, but I'm thinking of adding it, and it's fun to check it out under the hood. So let's go ahead and take a quick listen for starters. So this one is called Galactic Carousel, and I'm gonna load up a demo version. This instrument just features a single layer, but the source or sample that it uses is highly dynamic, particularly depending on where it starts. Cool, so I'm gonna now add the arpeggiator in here, and we've done a fairly intricate thing. As you can see here, we have 16th notes and 64th notes, and we've done a fair amount of volume automation. More of a look here, there's quite a bit of length changes, which really helps it feel more human, and octave shifts, which are just fun. Kind of make it more bouncy, little bits of panning here and there. And that is pretty much the story on the arpeggiator. Now, a fun component of this is the use of pitch envelope. So I've actually attached it to a macro, and this is gonna allow us to get a more sort of water droplet sound, or it can just even appear a little bit more punchy, depending on which direction you go. Currently, it is sitting at 0% right in the middle, but if we move it up or down, it will change. So there's our more punchy effect, right? And if we go below, we're gonna get that kind of water droplet sound. Or rubbery, or however you want to articulate that. Not surprisingly, in an ambient ARP like this, we are adding some additional reverb. And this one, the decay, is going to increase as we bring up this macro, which is great, so it'll get longer effectively. Can really ring out. We have a delay, kind of similar thing where the feedback's making the delay longer as we bring in the macro more. We have a pump, which is great. This is basically a side chaining effect if you were to have a 4 on the floor kick. And the punch we've discussed. So that is pretty much the kit. And again, if you want to find this, it is in the Transcend Line, Galactic Carousel. So I think there is one more sort of interesting bit, which is in this kit, Iridium Asteroids. So if we open it up, this is a sampler kit. And in the last 4 keys, there are these vocal chops that are pretty cool, I would argue. Let's go ahead and check out how I built those vocal loops. So now we are in the session where I did those vocal loop chops. We have a series of monosyllabic vocalizations. Untreated, they sound like this. So the first thing is going to be processing this little section. And it sort of is a little too hammering. So what we're going to do is add in this sort of faux sidechain that is just going to kick in, as we can see right here, when this little pulsing section happens and not on the other vocalizations. So let's go ahead and hear this. Now it has this nice pulse and it's a little less hammering. The next step is to add a reverb to everything. Pretty straightforward, just cutting out low frequencies. It sounds like this. Awesome. Next here, we are going to add in an echo. And a few things are going on in this echo. For starters, we can see that it is just playing with this one hit, or both these hits, right? And if we take a look at the feedback, we're gonna see that it's over 100%, so we're gonna get this kind of like growing thing that would be chaotic if it didn't cut off in the way that it does. And then we have a rate change that's going to happen on the repeat. And then we're also going to bring in this reverb, which will give it kind of a swell effect. So let's go ahead and take a listen. Cool. And then just the final step with that echo is adding in an additional sidechain, which is just gonna make the echo pulse a little bit better, particularly when paired with other stuff that features a 4-on-the-floor kick. So that is all the processing that's happening there. And now the only additional thing to really add is a harmony. And that sounds like this. And then maybe a little panning up top, so they have a nice stereo image, pretty subtle though. And voila, there you have it. So that's a behind the scenes look at a few of the sounds in Transcend. Now these loops are not just applicable to trance music, but also can be used widely throughout other house, dance music, pop, really whatever you can think of. Have a great day. Bye-bye.